I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. I want to talk today about the power of our words and the immense impact they can have on our mindset and our associated performance. Now, this sounds so deceptively simple that it's easy for cynicism to kick in and say, wow, really? Words? What difference are they going to make? But allow me to walk you through this process, and I encourage you, as ever, to really reflect on the simplicity of this situation. So, with that in mind, I want to ask you, what is your stock response when people ask you how things are going? We've all got one, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. When somebody approaches you, perhaps a friend, how's everything going at work? Or a loved one, a partner, what's the first thing you say? Now, let's play a little bit of bingo together. Invariably, there'll be phrases in there such as, it's manic, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I can't cope, I feel like I'm sinking, I can't see the wood for the trees, I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel. Any of those sound familiar? The reality is, all of those phrases are tremendously disempowering to our mindset. They help release more stress hormone into our system, and they immediately paint a picture to you and to anybody that that's listening to you, of stress and challenge and adversity. Now, I first became consciously aware of this during my tenure as a CEO, and I'm as guilty as anybody that a number of those phrases would roll off the tongue. But then I made a decision that actually I was going to have a new stock phrase. Started when my wife would check in, and it rolled out beyond that to my colleagues, to friends. When anybody asked me how things were going, my response was always, I am making progress. Now, that might seem irrelevant, but it wasn't irrelevant to me. Utilizing that phrase gave me strength. Rather than succumbing to the weight of the problems that I was invariably dealing with, trying to process and move through, it gave me strength because it reframed the situation. It changed my perspective and reminded me that I was moving forward. However small those steps were, I was still moving forward. So let me break this down into 3 key benefits. And I want you, as we move through this episode, to be thinking about what could your phrase be. And whatever you decide upon, I want it to address these 3 key points. So point number 1, as I alluded to earlier, reframing the situation. Our brain is very good at telling us all the things that are going wrong, all the challenges that lie ahead, and we almost become blind to the fact that we are still making progress. So this phrase for me was perfect because it forced me to sweep a little bit wider, to scan a little bit wider, and identify where progress was being made. As I said earlier, however small those steps are, they are still steps forward. And it was important to keep that sweeping process, because one small step forward leads to another small step, and you start to put them all together, and before you know it, you've got a game-changing level of momentum. Benefit number 2, it empowers your mindset. Stress, anxiety, fear, it will come to all of us in our professional role. And the reality is, when we are living reactively and we feel a loss of control, then that exacerbates the stress. It's like pouring fuel on the fire. The stress just creeps up and up. We feel worse and worse. Conversely, when we take action that creates a sense of control and a sense of momentum, that's like the thermostat turning down those feelings of stress. And so this sort of phrase for me was tremendously impactful because it created a whole different mindset. A phrase such as, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I can't cope, exacerbating those feelings of stress. My phrase of, I'm making progress, reminded me that there was forward momentum and put my mindset in a completely different place. What can you do to give you that sense of control? And it could be that you use this phrase yourself, that you experiment with this one, and it may be the one that you stick with, or maybe you'll develop something more personalized to you. Benefit number three, it sustains your energy. I don't care how strong you are as a character, as a person, as a leader. Dealing with repeated challenge and continual stress is a bit like being a boxer. You step into the ring fresh, but round after round, you're sustaining punches and body blows, and it depletes and drains your energy. And either you can't get to the end of the fight, or something big comes along, and that's the knockout punch. So we talked in the previous point about mindset. As the mindset becomes empowered, we just feel that higher level of energy and resilience. And the fact that we believe we are making progress and indeed can continue to make progress is that injection of energy that emboldens you to keep taking action, to step over the threshold of work with an anticipation and an excitement that you will continue to find solutions, that you will continue to build on that forward momentum and accelerate the pace of that forward momentum. Now, we've talked about the rationale for finding a phrase, but to try and bring that to life for you and to give you some homework, if you will, let me give you three takeaways from this episode. The obvious one, and step number one, is find your power phrase. What resonates for you? What can be your stock answer that you almost say without thinking when somebody asks you, irrespective how stressful things are, irrespective of what challenges you're going through? Perhaps it's utilizing the same as me. I'm making progress. Perhaps it's I'm moving forward. Perhaps it's phrase such I'm on fire. I feel unstoppable. I'm energized. Whatever resonates with you, but play around and find your power phrase. Secondly, identify and reframe negative language. Do not beat yourself up when you find that you're still slipping into your default setting. You may have been using a series of phrases or one or two in particular for your whole professional career. Whenever there's pressure, whenever there's stress, you go to your default setting. I'm stressed, I'm anxious, I'm overwhelmed, I'm frazzled. That's not going to stop overnight. So the first step is to identify it, to feel it, to become consciously aware when you say it, then check and reframe it. And it's absolutely fine. So actually, no, I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not frazzled. I'm making progress. I'm moving forward. So check it, identify it, and then reposition, reframe by utilizing your power phrase. And there's a million different ways. As I'm recording this, I can think of people that I've worked with where they find themselves check a negative phrase and say, actually, no, that's not true. It's challenging, but I've been through worse. It's challenging, and I know I'm going to find the solution. It's challenging, and I have the confidence that I can overcome this and I can get out to the other side of this challenge. And I can hear and see the people who have used those phrases and the power of becoming consciously aware of how they're using the words for a positive impact as opposed to a negative impact. And the third takeaway I'd love you to take some time to play with is to practice daily gratitude for the progress you are making. Now, this ties into a lot of the earlier points, but it's easy to be overwhelmed with the challenge we're facing. It's easy to lose sight of the progress that is being made. So one of the most simple but impactful ways of retaining a focus on that is to have some sort of daily gratitude ritual. And gratitude is something I'm very passionate about. It's something that weaves into a lot of my training and coaching. So in this scenario, you may be facing what seems an insurmountable challenge or set of challenges. Perhaps the last thing you do before you walk away from your desk, or perhaps as you're closing up your home office at night, is you just take out your journal and you just jot down 2 or 3 things that have moved forward that day. Now, you may be able to think of 10 or 11 that haven't, or an endless list of things that haven't, but reframing your focus onto here are 2 or 3 things that I'm grateful that have moved forward today. Bit by bit, these small steps will allow you to take control of the words that you use, will allow you to draw strength, positivity, resilience, energy, high performance from using the right words, and equally finally close a door on the utilization of negative phrases and words that were doing the polar opposite, that were disempowering your mindset, that were draining your energy. Now, again, it's very easy to dismiss something as simple as what we've talked about in this episode, but I hope I intrigued you at the very start, and I'll reiterate that question because it is so impactful to make you really embrace what we've talked about today. What is your stock answer? Now, you're probably aware, but if you have a blind spot, ask your partner, ask your husband or wife, ask your children, ask your colleagues. What do I tend to say when you ask me how things are going? And you'll very quickly identify whether you are using a negative set of language or the positive power phrase that I want you to find. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.